Your Healthy Community is underwritten by the Quantum Foundation. Quantum Foundation is dedicated to advancing access to health care and education for the residents of Palm Beach County. Quantum concentrates its mission in several areas to assure that all Palm Beach County residents have access to quality health care at reasonable cost, to improve quality of care, provide support for people with chronic health conditions, and to promote healthy communities and lifestyles through educational programming.
Good evening and welcome to Your Healthy Community. I'm Toni May. Did you realize that every day in America, 10,000 people turn 65 years old? You can figure it out. We're all getting older. And here in Florida, the numbers are even greater. Well, it turns out that doctors are getting older too and retiring, and those coming into the field are not going to meet the challenges of seeing all the aging population. In fact, physician shortage numbers may be astounding to you. They were certainly astounding to me. To talk more about this and what we're doing here locally to solve the problem is Dr. Julie Serross from the FAU College of Medicine. Welcome.
Thank you, Toni.
So we talk about the numbers, but really put a face on the number. In 2015, you were telling me, what is expected to be the physician shortage?
The Association of American Medical Colleges estimates that in 2015, the shortage will be over 62,000 physicians nationwide.
Now, I mentioned, physicians like all of us are getting older, but what else is contributing to that shortage?
Well, the number of medical schools and the number of medical school slots, and in addition, the graduate medical education. That is the residency training that all medical school graduates need to undertake in order to become a practicing physician. So there's actually not just a shortage of medical school slots, but residency slots as well.
And why a shortage of residency slots? There's just not enough places for them to train?
In part, and it does cost quite a bit of money to actually fund residency programs, and either colleges or schools of medicine and hospitals have to pay for these residents.
Oh, so if I graduate and I need to do a residency, I'm not paying for that residency. The entity is paying my salary. Correct. Or what it would be a resident salary.
Exactly. And 10 internal medicine slots, just to give an example, could cost a hospital and or associated entities up to $200,000 a year to fund a residency program.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, beyond that, college, as you mentioned, slots in medical schools and medical schools themselves are hard to find because of the rigorous standards it takes to get approval, mm-hmm. which is what FAU most recently did.
Yes.
So they just accepted their first class of what will be in a few years, graduating hopefully, mm-hmm. doctors. Talk about, where you're at FAU with this brand new class.
It's very exciting. So as you mentioned, we have our inaugural class of 64 medical students, an amazing class, very diverse with respect to their experiences, where they're from. We have almost 90% are from the state of Florida, so it really speaks to the excellent quality of pre-medical students in this state. And these are students that hopefully will stay in this area to serve their community. The greatest predictor of whether a physician, a graduate, will stay in a local community is if they actually do their residency in that state. So FAU will continue to move forward and build residency programs in the hopes of retaining these graduates here in South Florida and Florida in general.
Now, I know that the competition to get a medical school is tough, and you had worked with UM over the past few years, mm-hmm. but now this is your own. What do you think that brings to FAU, just as a entity, as a university, as a place that now is really a magnet mm-hmm. for some of the best and brightest?
It's a tremendous achievement for this community and for Florida Atlantic University. One thing that I don't think that the public understands is that not every university has a medical school. There are only 136 medical schools in the United States.
Wow.
So it really is a triumph for Florida Atlantic University, and it does attract healthcare providers, not just physicians, but there's also a College of Nursing. So Florida Atlantic University is now at the hub in South Florida in providing healthcare professionals and now, of course, physicians. So it's a great triumph for this community and also for FAU.
Well, before we talk a little more, I want people to get a view inside the College of Medicine, which is what we got to do. So take a look.
We are medical school students.
The setting is as real as it gets in a hospital emergency room.
Can I have something for the pain, guys?
While the new FAU medical students ask the patients questions, these faculty advisors play actor outside the room, mimicking the symptoms of a real-life situation.
Now and then, yeah.
This simulation center allows first-year students the chance many would not normally get until much later in their medical school careers.
There are an endless number of scenarios that our students can be presented with that challenge their cognitive knowledge as well as their hands-on skills that can be presented by this simulation center.
The mannequins look, feel, and sound real. Each student must instantly assess the different scenarios and decide what is needed to help.
This gives us an opportunity, even in this example here, to see how our students are performing clinically with a background. So they're on their neuroscience module now. They're studying neurology. So now here we are in the simulation lab, and we have 4 students at 4 different stations, and they're involved with various clinical scenarios. We have a physician in each one of the 4 stations who's monitoring their performance and watching how they're interacting with the various scenes that are going on here. So it's bringing the classroom into reality, as these are 4 real-world neurologic problems that they will eventually, as physicians, be dealing with.
Figure out what's wrong with you.
Remember, the students here have only been in medical school a few months, so they are literally learning on the job. It is a much different education than their instructors had decades ago.
In the old paradigm, it used to be that you went to class for 2 years and you learned pharmacology and biochemistry and anatomy, etc. And then in the 3rd year, all of a sudden, you were expected to know what to do with patients. And so now we're doing that very differently.
Florida Atlantic University President M.J. Saunders says it is this kind of true hands-on education that is going to make an impact on both these students and the community.
We'll find that the students that train at this particular medical school will probably build their careers right here in South Florida. One of the things that we've done in partnership with 5 of the local hospitals is done a consortium for residency training, graduate medical education, and that again will help to position our students in the local hospitals to do their residency training.
The class is made up of a diverse set of students. They range in age from 20 to 35.
Some of these students were out working for a couple years in economics, various professions, and then decided to go back and get their medical education and become a physician.
Together, as a team, they must work as a unit both in and out of the classroom.
You can learn from books, you can read about procedures, you can read about treatments, you can read about protocol, about what to do if a patient is in shock, but actually getting to the action and going through the steps and just knowing how to act overall is an experience you can't get from just reading books.
Rika, like her fellow classmates, wants to be a doctor to help others. She says it is something she wants to do for her family.
First generation American Filipino, and they've always taught me to work hard. We don't have a doctor in the family, so I would be the first one, and I feel like being a doctor is having a purpose more than myself.
Ben Katz was thrilled when he got the call that he was part of the inaugural class. He is impressed with the curriculum and the opportunities he has already had.
I didn't expect to be able to do so much the first year. With my preceptor, with the Sim Center here, even in the hospitals, I've got to do a lot that I did not expect to be able to do. So it's been great.
The doctors who work side by side with the students are both impressed and envious. They say having these real-life mannequins is placing all of them ahead of the curve.
It's not just putting your hands on a mannequin, it's also being able to put together all of those things that you've learned from all of your other classes and your small group activities, and being able to put all the pieces together to make the right decision about what to do or what not to do.
All these 4 scenarios that are set up here are true emergency room settings. These mannequins are lifelike. They have pulses, they bleed, they talk, so they communicate with the students. So it's a wonderful experience, which I wish I had had when I was in medical school, to give them that kind of exposure and to really think on their feet.
But FAU leaders say the young medical students are not the only ones benefiting from the technology. The hope is, after they graduate, many faces here will stay in our community to help those who need them most.
So obviously, you mentioned it before the story, a diverse class, really excited students. And what I liked is you had your traditional 20-something, just got out of college, but there were some older students that are hands-on in their learning as well. Talk about why that's really important.
Well, the way that we approach our admissions process is what's called holistic admissions. And what that means is that we don't just look at the grade point average and the MCAT scores. We know that that does predict their ability to do well on future testing, but it doesn't predict how good a physician that individual is going to be. So at our College of Medicine, diversity means something. It's not just socioeconomic status and ethnic diversity, which are clearly important, but the totality of life experiences that each individual applicant will bring to the class. It's that kind of diversity that breeds an excellent physician, being able to work well with others and ultimately succeed in delivering care to a diverse population, because we certainly have that here in South Florida and in the United States in general.
And what I noticed in my short time there was they really were a team. I imagine, we all think of medical school or residencies as what you see on TV, all the shows. But what I noticed is they were a team, they were supporting each other. When you were looking at the class, did you kind of judge that and say how they would all work together based on their backgrounds?
Absolutely. Interpersonal and teamwork skills, as well as potential for leadership, are all qualities that we look for in medical school applicants. And actually, the way our integrated patient-focused curriculum is built, it emphasizes teamwork from day one. Our students are in a pedagogy called problem-based learning, where 8 students and a faculty physician work their way through a real clinical case from the first year of medical school. And that really trains them with respect to critical thinking and how to work as a team. And as you saw at the Simulation Center, we use those skills practically in the Simulation Center, and then when our students go out into the community seeing patients with faculty members.
And the faculty members in the story commented on how they wished when they went to medical school they had that kind of technology. Talk about, obviously you had that in your training. What a difference what we saw there with the mannequins, but beyond what we saw, all the computer, all the technology that now is part of the training and certainly part of a doctor's career. How has that changed medicine or made it more challenging or worse? What is your opinion?
I think that it's enhanced our education. You can't replace one-on-one personal contact, and that is why our curriculum, we have our students go with faculty, physicians to see patients, not just to shadow the physicians, but also to interact with the patients, because you can't replace that interpersonal relationship. What the Simulation Center and the other technologies have added is really to enhance the students' ability to think about patient problems from a very early point in their career and practice important skills on high-fidelity mannequins before they're actually practicing medicine after they graduate. And finally, with the physician shortage that we spoke about, telemedicine and using the technology to reach out to not just rural areas, but for physicians to be able to provide services through the internet, using other technologies is also something that we have to strongly consider given the shortage.
I thought it was interesting because when we were watching the students, all of them were very comfortable with the technology, and they were talking to me about, this is the group that grew up on video games, so they aren't hesitant to jump in, use the computer, use the technology. And as you said, telemedicine, we hear so much about how that has got to be the wave, especially with the shortages we're talking about. But what else do you think are some of the answers to the shortage? You mentioned residencies. Is that residence program everywhere, specifically primary care physicians?
Well, the answer is really twofold. So the residency programs there's huge need here in the state of Florida, and FAU, along with its affiliate hospitals, will begin to answer that need shortly. So we will have residency training programs. The other part of FAU's response is with our pipeline programs, and this is reaching out into the community to our younger students. We have what's called the Healthcare Careers Outreach Program, and we've been lucky enough to receive funding from the Quantum Foundation to initiate our program this year. And what that means is that we're able to send our faculty to teach and enrich STEM education in middle school students and in high school students. And right now we have 25 in each group. This is really where we'll begin to have a true pipeline from middle school, high school, and hopefully to FAU and FAU's College of Medicine. So we're working on both ends, if you will, of the spectrum, before medical school and afterwards as well.
And I know I've seen some of the research that shows if you get kids excited about science, certainly in middle, if not elementary, chances are it won't be such a scary thing when you get to high school, and therefore you may want to pursue a degree like you got in medicine or some kind of other, technology around medicine. Why is it important to really get these kids at that age? Is it to help, in that shortage?
Yes, absolutely. As you said, it really doesn't take a lot, but the effort and investment in these children are critical. Because again, if you can stimulate the interest for middle school students who are unaware of the rigors that MD degree requires or how to even approach getting into college, just a little bit of education and mentorship, importantly, in the middle school and high school years is critical to recruiting Florida residents, our own Florida students to stay here in Florida and to serve their community as physicians, nurses, dentists, really any of the healthcare fields, but we do focus on physicians.
Well, I know you mentioned residency, and I know a little bit, I only read a little bit, but you can expound on when you do place the current class, you're hoping to do a lot of community-based health as well.
Absolutely.
Talk about what community-based health is and why I, as a resident here, should really support that.
Well, we actually begin with our medical students. As part of our curriculum, I mentioned that our students go into the community with private practice physicians who are faculty members, but we also send our students to the Department of Health. And that is so that they can see a different population, but also to provide services to those in need, the underserved and the underinsured in our community. In addition to that, it is a requirement that our students participate in a service learning project which spans the 4 years. So groups of students will be going into the community with community-based organizations through the Department of Health, through the Caridad Clinic, for example, and they will provide services to their local community. In addition, then we have the residency programs, and of course, this is the service area we're talking about, the FAU service area. So all of the affiliates will be here locally in Palm Beach County, as well as south of us.
So, when you imagine a young man or woman going into medical school, you imagine them having a private practice and setting it up, but you're really putting them in places, like you said, Caridad, which is a free clinic in Boynton. What are these students' reactions when they go somewhere and serve somewhere like that?
I think it really speaks to their call to be a physician. That is something that we look for in these medical school applicants. Why do you want to be a physician? Service is such a critical part of FAU's mission. Usually medical schools have a tripartite mission. It's patient care, educating future physicians, and research. But FAU's College of Medicine, we've added a fourth leg to that, or a cornerstone, and that is community engagement and service. And so we instill that value in our medical students from day one, as I mentioned, going out and providing service. And it reinforces the goal that they have to serve individual patients and their community. So it's very important to us to educate them about Palm Beach County, about our local communities, and give them that immediate feedback. There's nothing like a medical student feeling like they are making an impact in the first year of medical school.
Do you feel that or have you seen that makes them a more successful doctor when they're actually out there practicing that caring, being enforced from day one?
Absolutely. Empathy and compassion are critical skills for a physician to have. And the more clinical experiences medical students have from the beginning of their training, the closer they feel to the patients, and it reinforces the development of those skills, giving back, displaying respect and empathy. And because of the diversity of South Florida and the patients that they're seeing, they're more culturally competent. They're able to deal with and manage respectfully our diverse patient population physicians, which is really what we need in Florida specifically.
Now, we talk a lot about the students, and they certainly sound like they're on the right path. But we started this discussion with something that affects everyone watching, a shortage of physicians. I had read specifically primary care physicians, especially in Palm Beach County, something like 1 to every 1,000 residents. In your opinion, you do this every day. Why is that such a problem for me to find a primary care physician, to establish that relationship, to trust and go back to that person, and they're not available? Why is that happening?
I think there are several factors that go into that. There is the aging population. There's greater demand on the primary care physicians, but there are also reimbursement issues and practice issues for primary care physicians. We see the shorter time periods for patients to see their primary care physicians, and we lean a lot on the primary care physicians for preventative medicine. Chronic disease has become the highest priority for the United States. All of our focus is on treating chronic disease because things like heart disease and obesity are the main killers in our country right now. And we lean on the primary care physicians to really do that counseling. But with the economic pressures, everyone's being affected by the economy today, the physicians are not immune to that. And so it's difficult. The numbers are short, the demand is high, and there are economic pressures on everyone.
How do you entice your students to do primary care? Because even when I was talking to the few I spoke with, all of them are, I want to do, a specialty here, a specialty there. Nobody really seemed on fire to just be what I would call, regular old MD, the guy you grew up with at least, 30 years ago in Florida.
Again, I think it's the curriculum itself lends towards community engagement and service, as I said, and really at the primary care level. We focus on preventative medicine, and when they go into the community, whether it's the Department of Health, whether it's with a local physician, they're really in the primary care setting. They don't get the specialty exposure until later on, but it's really the mission of our college to serve the community and to produce physicians that will stay here in Florida. So it's built into the curriculum and the exposure that we give to the students.
Before we end, I want to talk about the community exactly. You led into it. They've really embraced this brand new medical school, and we talked about it a little bit in the story. But how important in your view, because universities tend to be their own little towns and cities, let's be honest. You all have your own, faculty, you have your own clinic, you have your own lunchroom. But beyond the doors of FAU, how important it is that myself, businesses, hospitals know what's going on at the College of Medicine?
Oh, it's absolutely critical that the full community is engaged. And President Saunders has really put the call out to the community to not just come to FAU, but for FAU to go into the community and not just generate interest, but really engagement and partnership. So even for the College of Medicine, I had referred to the Healthcare Careers Outreach Program, again, which is sponsored by the Quantum Foundation, and we have gone to Scripps Jupiter, which is on the FAU campus, and Max Planck, which is another affiliate. So outside of FAU's quote-unquote walls, but reaching out as well as to our business partners as well to help engage and to help address this need for future physicians. So it's critical that everyone is involved with this effort. We can't do it alone, and I think many universities realize that, and certainly colleges of medicine realize that this is a team effort, and it requires the community's commitment and service as well.
As a resident of Palm Beach County, driving by maybe FAU, never really drove, took a class or took some of the other services that are there. Why should I be excited that this College of Medicine is there? I know you're having a graduating class, so that means you're going to somewhat help that shortage. But why else is that really a jewel for Palm Beach County?
Well, as I mentioned, not every university has a medical school, so to be one of 136 medical schools in this country is a unique and privileged thing to have on one's campus. It does help to build infrastructure for research. President Saunders wants us to have a more robust research profile, and certainly a College of Medicine contributes to that. And the excitement of trying to address this physician shortage also is an amazing triumph for our school.
And physician shortage, and take away the FAU School of Medicine, just your own experiences, your colleagues talking about it. Is it realistic that those numbers, you said more than 62,000 short in just a few years, literally 3 years. What else beyond really graduating bigger numbers can be done so that people get the care that they need when they're older?
We definitely will not be able to meet that need just with bodies, just with physicians graduating from medical school and residency. We will have to explore more efficient ways to deliver health care. The electronic medical record is certainly one of them. We spoke about telemedicine, but we have to become more efficient and more cost effective in the way we deliver health care. We will not have enough physicians by that time period.
Is some of the responsibility on the individual to try it, as you touched on it, do preventative maintenance, so to speak, of my own body, eat right, get exercise, you know, watch your cholesterol levels, all the stuff we hear about? Do you feel that some of that is personal responsibility at this point?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, chronic disease is really the critical issue for our country. Obesity, heart disease, cancer, of course. So preventative medicine is critical. And many of our community members, our patients that see us, are highly educated and engaged. But the more that we can engage and educate, that is another hallmark of our College of Medicine, is educating our community, not just the FAU community, but also those in Palm Beach County. Getting out there, spreading the word about how we can prevent chronic disease, critically important.
Great words, and certainly you know the business, so we're going to listen. Might not heed them, but we're going to listen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned a lot tonight. I know I did. We hope to see you next time right here on Your Healthy Community. Until then, make it a safe and healthy week. Good night.
Your Healthy Community is underwritten by the Quantum Foundation. Quantum Foundation is dedicated to advancing access to health care and education for the residents of Palm Beach County. Quantum concentrates its mission in several areas to assure that all Palm Beach County residents have access to quality health care at reasonable cost, to improve quality of care, provide support for people with chronic health conditions, and to promote healthy communities and lifestyles through educational programming.